Spot has broken a vase and a teapot, ruined one of Jordy's chairs, using it as a scratch post, and she is coughing up hairballs all over Jordy's carpet. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton.
Hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 7, Episode 9, entitled Force of Nature, written by Naren Shankar, directed by Robert Lederman. This was November 13th, 1993. Where were you, and how are you today, Sirach?
I am doing wonderfully. November 13th,
1993. We are dangerously close to 1994, which everybody knows is when TNG ended. So when I see late 93, I'm already like, oh my gosh, this is it.
Yeah.
We want to give a very special thanks to Jonathan Capps for sponsoring not only this episode, but the entire season of The Next Generation. Thank you so much, Jonathan Capps. We really appreciate you. And the best way we can show that appreciation is by giving you the best episode review ever. So everybody, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon for notifications. If you're listening in, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review, and visit us at patreon.com/the7th-rule to support the show and become part of the community. Sirach, you've never seen this episode before, I bet. What'd you think of it? Uh-oh. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was a little slow for me. And that's because I didn't really feel any imminent danger to begin with. You know, especially when they opened with the cat, looking for the cat. That's when it kind of set me up for like, I don't think this episode's going anywhere, because if that's the most drama for the teaser, you know what I mean? Like that's your teaser for what this episode's going to be about, is like,
watch my cat
under the bed. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that just was kind of it was a poorly written teaser, to be honest with you, because that's not exactly the best way to get me hyped up about what's going on. I would have liked more about the delegation or the freighter, or something with a lot more drama. A commander, we're getting a subspace communication from
exactly. That's all it takes.
Yeah, that's it. From USS Fleming. It seems like it was sent 4 weeks ago. Well,
4 weeks ago.
4 weeks ago.
Boom, commercial. Something, anything. I thought the same thing. You could play with the cat, you could do all this stuff, but you need that call at the end that says, uh-oh, something crazy just happened. Now, kind of hurt my feelings when you said that the cat was boring. I myself am a cat lover, but
no, not the cat was boring. Not the cat was boring, but having the teaser be all about the cat was not really a setup for a high stakes drama.
Well, let me top that and say, then you come back from the teaser and it's back on the cat. And look, again, I'm a cat lover, so I'm all about that cat. I'm all in on it. But even I was like, oh my God, we are now on 10 minutes. I looked at the thing. It said it was like 9:52, 9:53, 9:54. I'm like, we're still talking about the bloody cat. And I was like, even I'm going, are we going to find out what this episode's about, or is it just going to be the Geordi and Spot show? I don't know.
And I mean, it was like a conversation that happens maybe, now. I can get it, but I would imagine there would be something in the future that would be more interesting as a little dynamic, a twist to add to the conversation. If the cat, for example, wore a collar that was a futuristic collar that translates its meows, but it does a poor job of it, right? And the cat does a meow, and he thinks it's saying something else because the universal animal translator is that's being tested is not actually accurate. So that would take this cat conversation into a future context, as opposed to, I've had a cat too, and I know exactly what they do. They play with your toilet tissue, they scratch up the the post of your
They
bed.
love toilet paper, man. That is they think they are saving the world by unrolling it. Like they're just like, hang on, I gotta finish this. I gotta get through this whole thing. I can't stop until I did. No, they think they're saving the world.
Yeah, so and I get it. I mean that I was expecting to hear some toilet tissue conversation, but I guess they don't use the same kind of toilet tissue.
Well, let me tell you, I've been through a lot of shit getting through my toilet paper.
Okay, like we all have. But I'll tell you what, it's just a low bar for a drama. We're looking at. I like the slice of life stuff, and
Totally.
we feast on the slice of life stuff. We like that, and I like cats, and I like Spot, and I like the whole conversation about like you're taking on more than you can chew when you think you're doing somebody a favor, and you're like, hey, this is like I thought it was a cat. It was just going to sit over there and just hang out. I fill up the bowl with some food and put some water down and, clean out a litter every once in a while. And you think it's going to be something that it ends up being more than, or less than what you expected. So yeah, that's a funny slice of life conversation between Jordy and Data. I want to see that. But what's really going on here? A cat conversation is a nice brief interlude as you're walking in talking, but as we're going to red alert, incoming, we're high tachyon frequencies. We're entering some sort of space debris. I don't know what it is, Captain. And then boom, there it is. Story. Now I'm in with some kind of what's going on.
Or what I was thinking is just, all power just failed. Boom. The forge to the bridge. Data, you try it. Data to the bridge. No answer. Commercial. And then comes back and it's like power comes back on. What happened? And then there you go. But also Spot is suddenly a female cat. Spot has always been a bro dude cat. And now Spot is suddenly a she. So this is kind of like a running joke, with Star Trek fans. It's like there's a point where suddenly Spot became a female cat. It just happened. All of a sudden Spot's a female cat. I don't know why this happened. And I don't know, maybe somebody in our free-for-all later on will tell us the reasoning for it. I believe it's probably because of an episode that's coming up that is one of my favorites. And a lot of people are going to say, how is this one of your favorites? But it is. I'm not going to say which one it is, but that is relevant to it. So I wonder if they were just planning ahead and we're like, let's just make Spot a female cat. Nobody's paying attention that close, but they didn't know that in the future there was like Netflix and Paramount Plus, and we would like binge the hell out of it. Now in universe, I think the obvious answer is just that Spot 1 passed away. Data got another cat. This time it was a female. He called it Spot. He's like, whatever. I put as much thought into it as I did the first time. Just like when I visited these people across the street from my grandma when I was a kid. And I was like, how old is... They had a dog named Puppy Dog. And they're like, Puppy Dog's 4. And I'm like, I thought you had him for like way longer than that. They're like, that was Puppy Dog 1. This is Puppy Dog 2. And I'm like, geez, dog looks the same. You call it the same name. It's a boring ass name. Exact same thing with Data. Just call 9 cats in a row Spot. Doesn't even matter what he looks like. Who cares?
It's like Wayoon. Spot is the Wayoon of cats. Just bring another one up. But yeah, I didn't notice the gender change from Spot, but it could also be, and this is a possibility, is a line flub.
Well, they kept saying she, like. It had to be right. I mean, I don't know. You could be right that they just said she.
And they just kept going with it because it was already filmed like that. They didn't want to do any reshoots. Possibly. I just don't. I don't know. But to me, again, unless the cat is going to be part of the A story, because this you're basically telling me the cat's the A story when you do the teaser about it, and then follow up after the opening credits. And we're back on cats. That's your for some reason now I'm thinking, is this the A story? Like, is this cat gonna be the the hero of this?
I wish
of this episode or something, And so It throws me off as a viewer. So that was my one big criticism as far as pace is concerned, because I did criticize the pace, and so these are the reasons why. I'm not just being flippant about my criticism. It seems to me, if you're going to set up a good pace, you got to set up the drama and the stakes right away. You got to get me right into the meat of the story. And in this case, there was a lot of exposition by talking, and people were saying, "Well, talk about this." And, yes, this and over there, and the people over here, they're doing this, and so instead of showing me, they were telling me a lot of stuff too,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's what
Oh yeah. Well,
yeah.
let's talk about that, because when they finally did get into the A story, which you couldn't really even tell if it was an A story because they didn't spend a ton of time on it. It was very talky. It was very low budgety, which is okay. Totally fine with that. But I'm just saying, maybe that's part of the reason why they had to show and not, or they had to tell and not show, is because they're like, well, sorry, we don't have the budget for special effects. We don't have the budget for more ships. So we got to just tell a story. The problem is the story wasn't very compelling. The characters weren't very compelling. What I think happened, and I could be wrong, this is 1993. I think that they're just like, hey, we're talking, what was all the rage back then? We're talking about a hole in the ozone layer. We're talking about all these carbon emissions, all these gas emissions, the use of fossil fuels can create holes in the ozone layer, which is exactly what this episode is about. They're talking about wearing something out and creating holes in the fabric of space. And it was like a very clear and exact analogy to the, what the talk of the time was, which is fine. This happens all the time. This is what Star Trek does. That's great. But this time I feel like they missed on creating a compelling way to tell that message. Whereas in the past, they've succeeded at that.
Yeah, and that's where another issue I had with this episode, because of that main A storyline as well. Because if we were really to take into full account what they're suggesting in the A storyline, it's that the effects of warp travel essentially erode space, making it unusable at some point.
And killing people,
and killing people. And what I disliked about that is it kind of is counterproductive to what the initial goals of the federations are all about. It's this collective coming together and working of multiple countries of the world, and just to even form the federation, and then eventually bring other worlds on involved. So it's this unilateral cooperation amongst planets. And for me, with all of that mind capacity converged together to do research with the Vulcans and the Romulans and the Klingons and there's just too many minds who are able to test the negative, harmful effects of these kinds of things, that it would have been discovered. Now, what would have made it nice for me is that this particular patch of space, this corridor, for example, that maybe by the placement of certain alignment of other planets and gravitational pull or whatever it is, that this corridor itself is a specific kind of anomaly that this kind of erosion of space would happen. But to suggest that all of the shows that we've ever watched, all of the space travel that Kirk has done, was actually doing more damage than good, or was causing even damage to begin with, just moving from one place to another, just it seems a little bit. It seems a little bit too much for me.
Yeah,
and
I
yes,
think
it does seem on the nose for the kind of overall, global pollution.
I mean, they beat it to death even more later, which was like when they're like, well, we just have to all agree to not do this too much and to slow things down and to come up with regulations. And they're like, okay, well, we'll do it, but what about the Ferengi and what about the Ram? You know, what that means is, okay, back then they're saying, well, the United States will do it, but what about Russia? What about China? What about, you know, whatever the boogeyman of the early 90s was? What about Kosovo? I feel like that was right around 93, 94. But then, you know, I understand, you know, the analogy works. I mean, I guess it didn't, I don't know. I think what they're saying is, since they made this corridor, they made it this really narrow thing that everybody's passing through this one thing, which made it way more concentrated. And so that's messing it up. Whereas normally they're flying around all over the place, so they're not really focusing. Like what Picard said. Oh, that was funny. Picard had the Deanna Troi line of the week. You know, she's always states the obvious. She's always like,
Yeah.
Data says, and then if we do this successfully, blah, 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 blah. And Troy goes, like a message in a bottle. Yeah, yes. Yeah, we got it. Yes, like a message. Thank you. Basically, she's saying that for the 9-year-olds in the audience. You know, she's like, so everybody can understand. So he had that line. When they're describing it, Picard goes, oh, like when you walk over a patch of carpet too many times and it gets worn out. We're like, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Picard. Yes, we understand.
That's like, yeah, like a trail in the woods when you walk over it a lot. Yes, the trail.
Yes, very good, Picard. Like too many crumpets on a couch.
You know, that episode was slow, and you know, I don't know what else is going on at this point. Episode was slow. I didn't even feel like the director, you know, and who's done other good work in the past. In this particular instance, I wasn't blown away by the pace of it. It wasn't even moved with camera angles. There was nowhere to go because it was a stationary thing. It was on the bridge or somewhere on board the ship. There were really no locations. Um, you know, and the camera didn't move much because there wasn't much action. There wasn't running around or movement in the camera, or, you know. So you just had it. For me, it was just a slow moving episode, slow camera work, not much action, not much really at stake that I could take in to that account. Because at first I was siding with LaForge and everybody else. Like, well, what are you talking about? You know. Now she turns out to be right in that sacrificial kind of experiment she makes, but again, it just I don't know. I just didn't feel the eminent threat that much. I didn't feel the story was set up that well, and it was weird to me that they were a brother and sister thing. That I don't know. Just you know, I don't know. Just the way you know, he said I had to study for 2 years just to even learn the science that she knows. I guess what I would have liked more backstory on, perhaps even, was like, what is this race of people? Why are there? Why do they have such a high IQ? And maybe there could have been some examination where Data was saying, well, you know, technically the Valerian or whatever these people's name are, you know, those people are high. You know, they have a high IQ and a certain ability to reason beyond our own depth perception. They are. You know, quantum thinkers or some kind of, you know, scientific word that makes me respect just one random person versus you know, hundreds of years of science and data over time. How many professors came out of academies? How many captains were there? How many admirals? How many hundreds of years has this thing been going on? And no scientist was able to figure out what this one person did by on an individual basis with basically very little instrumentation and budget. So I don't know. Maybe perhaps it's possible, but I would have liked it to be more regional, or maybe these aliens themselves were sensitive to the higher frequency expansion of these, you know, pockets, and it's only affecting their life, like this particular alien race. You know what I mean? Not the whole fabric of space. That's what I had a problem with.
So we're going to take our break in just a second here. There were some good things about this episode besides an adorable kitty. But also on the other side, so we'll talk about that on the other side, but also on the other side, I'm going to say, it's been hard for me not to say it in this whole first half, but I'm going to say what I think the crux of the issue was, why this episode didn't quite do it for me. I mean, because we can say it was slow or it was this or that, but I feel like there was one major thing. I'm building it up too much. It's not that great. We'll be right back on the seventh rule. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the seventh rule with Sirach Lofton.
Hello.
Here are the trivioids of the week. They go a little something like this. Boy, oh boy, some great ones. Spot hides from Geordie under the bed. So far, Spot has broken a vase and a teapot, ruined one of Geordie's chairs, using it as a scratch post, and she's coughing up hairballs all over his carpet. Spot has the unfortunate habit of jumping on Data's computer console when he is working. That's funny. Biomimetic gel is very valuable. Geordie likes to make sure that his conversion levels are a little bit higher than Donald Kaplan's. Data starts training Spot, and Geordie's sister walked around for 2 months with a piece of tuna in her blouse. Okay.
All right.
Sounds gross.
Yeah, it does. It does sound gross.
Ugh.
But
Especially in the
worse places
summer.
to keep it.
Can you imagine the summer? Yeah, I know. I know. Anyway, so here's what I think that this thing suffered from. And it's going to sound really obvious and probably not deep, but usually I find myself mentioning something like this, or you say something like this, and we think, this should have been 2 episodes. The A plot should have been expanded upon. The B plot should have been expanded upon. And I thought about that for this one. And this is not one of those episodes.
Yeah, please, God.
I realized that it's actually the opposite. I feel like it just, the crux of the issue was that the bones of this episode could have never been great. Like when they said A plot is this thing, B plot is Spot this and that, I feel like even the best writer in the world could have made this, a B episode at best. Like I don't feel like the bones were there for a great episode. So that's why I don't know if the writer did a bad job. I think he just did the best with what the idea was. What the story itself, there was just not that much there. Whereas a lot of times Star Trek suffers from the opposite, is that there are 2 good stories and we don't have enough time to tell them both. This one, I felt like there just wasn't much to work with. You think I'm wrong? I don't know.
No, I think there's a lot to work with, because one of the ideas that they brought up was the slow moving bureaucracy of the Federation. They were like, "Oh, you're going to send a science vessel, and and then you're going to get it cleared by 14 different commanders, and by the
in
time
2 years, it's going to take 2 years."
Yeah, and it's and we can all kind of empathize with that, because it's in one way or another we've experienced. I mean, that's we as in human beings have experienced the level of some bureaucracy. Like, oh, you got to take that paper over there. Oh, you got to mail it first, and then come back over here, and you're like,
or fax. Oh.
And so, there's people right now that are trying to rebuild their home in the Palisades and other places that have burned down, and they're like driving themselves crazy, because it's like, oh, you got to get the permit for this, and you need this. That person has to first inspect it and then take that paper down to this, and you're like, the bureaucracy makes it take forever. And so what I'm saying is I kind of empathized with them when they said that. It made sense to me, because I can imagine like trying to get the wheels of the Federation moving on something that's not like what they would perceive as an imminent threat, right?
The opposite. Yeah, it's like the threat is that the Federation doesn't take it as a threat. It just takes forever for anything to move.
Yeah, so that idea I thought was pretty accurate, and could have slightly been expanded upon as far as the bureaucracy. Maybe Picard could have ran up the chain of command trying to expedite some things, and found that he too was getting the runaround, and kind of seeing that the wheels would have turned slowly in this case.
Political intrigue.
political intrigue. You get admirals involved with, we get our other cap, Jellicoe. You can bring Jellicoe in there, your favorite, and Jellicoe tells him.
Admiral Nechayev is like, Captain, I'm telling you to walk away. And he's like, I cannot do that. All right, I can see it.
Yeah. So now I get some intrigue. Now there's some gamesmanship between the higher ups. We get to a meeting of some captains advised by the admiral and all of these things, and they're giving Picard the runaround, and he's trying to advocate on her behalf because he believes in it, maybe to some degree. There could have been something there. And the other, the other aspect of what was going on was the warp being basically a pollutant of some kind. Warp itself being a pollutant that actually damages the fabric of space. And so that's a big idea. That's a big concept. I mean, you can expand on that if you really want to. And I would have liked a more investigation, maybe that, like I said, would have had more particulars drawn out and differentiate between what we've already watched for 7 seasons of warp travel and thereabouts versus what we're experiencing now. Perhaps engines need to be calibrated at a certain in order for that to be remedied, and boom. Then at least for me, in my mind, I'm not thinking of my crew as people that are tearing down the environment as opposed to fixing it. Because the way I idealistically look at Star Trek and the crew of these shows as idealistically people that are trying to do the best and save lives, network and build bridges between different galaxies and expand. So I look at it in a optimistic view.
Totally.
And it bothers me if I consider them actually being causing more damage than good.
Right. And that should be Picard's biggest concern as well. But instead, they kind of poo-pooed it away. And yeah, what you're describing would be great. And it would, but that's a totally different kind of story. You know what I mean? Like, it's got the same theme and the same message. And when you were talking about it, I could picture it. And I was like, this would be awesome and a lot of fun. But the reason it's awesome and a lot of fun is because it's totally different than where they took this thing. And I'm not even, the funny thing is, I don't even really remember that much of what happened.
Well, let me give an example why you don't remember. They start with the cat. Boom, here's the cat. You're like, well, what's going on? Was it follow the cat?
10 minutes.
Yeah. Is this what the cat's? This is just a cat episode. So they start with the cat. Then they talk about the Fleming, the ship. Okay, missing ship. Oh, interested. Now my ears perk up. Okay, what's going on with the Fleming?
And then they get boarded.
Then the Fleming somehow moves over to something else, which is this corridor and these people, this alien race that lives in the corridor that's affected by it, right? But on the way to that topic, they actually told us it was a Ferengi freighter with 450 people. So I'm thinking, where are the Ferengis? Are they coming?
Yeah, I started to think it was a Ferengi episode. It was like, I was thinking about that right before we went to record. I was like, oh, that's right. There was Lee Ehrenberg in this episode. He's an actor that's played a lot of characters. He's played a lot of different Ferengi. Really cool guy. He's out at conventions a lot. He would have been a great guest. But I was like, oh, that's right. There was a Ferengi in this episode. But then I was like, did I imagine that? Because I don't even... The Ferengi, they mentioned the Ferengi. He talked to the Ferengi. And then it disappeared. Like, what was the point of that? Nothing happened.
It was to draw them into the storyline, but you were already looking for a lost ship, and now you found a different lost ship, and somehow it was just like
we didn't need it.
We didn't need it. We didn't need it, and it threw me off because I thought, okay, these Ferengi, I got to be suspicious of this Ferengi guy. He's somebody to, and then it's like, no, he has nothing to do with the story.
No, he's gone.
And then it's the the biomimetic gel, which has been talked about on Deep Space Nine, by the way, because I remember
And Enterprise, I believe.
Yeah, because I remember Bashir talking about, oh no, I can't let you have new the biomimetic gel. It's authorized by the Federation. Remember that? I remember that storyline. So biomimetic gel, I think, might have gotten its birth in this episode. Who knows? I'm just
Oh
saying it's
yeah.
possible because I haven't heard it before prior to this episode that I can remember, but they did mention it. So I'm thinking, oh, this is that biomimetic gel that's like a bioweapon that can only be given out in small doses. Maybe this is an episode about weapons, biological weapons or something like that. No, no, no. So why mention it? Why get me thinking about it? Like I'm over here thinking about biomimetic gel. Uh, I just don't understand. They kept giving us look over here, look over here, look over here, but there was nothing really over here to look at.
Right. So Lee Ehrenberg, he played, if you
That was the
remember,
Ferengi?
yeah, he
Okay.
played this character Damon Prack, and then in an episode that's yet to come, he plays Damon Bach, another Ferengi. And then in season 1 of Deep Space Nine, he played Graal, another Ferengi in the episode The Negus. And I feel like he played a Ferengi a 4th time, possibly, or something. I think so. I could be wrong. I don't see it. Oh, yeah, there it is. He played Pelk. I don't remember if that was a Ferengi, but that was in Voyager. So that's 4 different. Oh, and then he played Ambassador Graal. So that's in Star Trek Enterprise in 2 episodes. I think that was. I believe that was a Tellarite, though. That's right. I think he was the main Tellarite guy in Enterprise. But anyway, so he always plays, Ferengi or Tellarite, shorter character. I believe he was friends with Aaron Eisenberg, that we know, and I think Melissa might speak on that in the Free for All. But anyway, he was cool, and I was happy to see him, and I recognized him because all of his Ferengi look alike. But anyway, to your point, unfortunately, either we didn't need him or that aspect for this story, or the story could have been more about the Ferengi. But just bringing him in for one scene was, I don't even understand the need for it. I barely remember what happened. It could have been a Ferengi episode, or it could have had no Ferengi. But this kind of middleman just confused me.
Yeah. What I did enjoy. Let's go to some good stuff.
Totally.
I like the buddy stuff between Data and Geordi. Some of that walking through the corridors, crawling through those little conduits, reminded me of some moments crawling through those conduits, which are so hurtful on the knees.
It looks like it. And Geordi actually had to do it with a briefcase.
Yeah, it's very hurtful on the knees. And 9 times out of 10, probably 10 times out of 10, you're given a set of knee pads to put on to wear because it's almost impossible to crawl through those conduits without knee pads, and
totally
because you will scar your knees up. Those things are metal grated, just floor bottoms, and it's not something that was meant to be crawled on with your knees. So that's the one to draw back on the set design for that thing. It looks great and allows light to pass through, but it'll scrape up your knees. But I do like those moments between the two of them walking and talking, and the buddy stuff. I like that. I like that LaForge was kind of in a competition with the other engineer on the other ship, trying to maximize, his conversion level or whatever it was that he was so focused on, just out of just competition. So like moments like that, I enjoy.
I got a lot of fun things too to point out here.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Let me see. What have I done? So, a few things that I liked. One was at the beginning, we had all 7 of the main cast in the observation lounge. That's like kind of like the captain's ready room, but next door, it's like where they all sitting at the table. And I realized what a rarity it is to have all 7 of them. I remember looking back, before and just assuming that in most episodes, all 7 of them are there. I always just kind of picture it that way. But when I saw it today, I realized it's not usually like that. It's very rare to have all 7 of them. And it was nice to see we're all here for this excellent episode. But anyway, I remember when I look back, I remember them all being there, but they rarely are. It's usually 4 or 5 of them. Also, during that observation lounge scene, when Data's talking, Worf looks so bored that he's kind of just playing with the console. He's just kind of like, wiping it or doing something like that. And he just kind of like looks up. I'm like, was that intentional? That was funny though. Like, what is it? Is Worf just completely disinterested? It was nice to see a sighting of Ensign Gates again, the lady at the con. She's gotten a lot of work ever since Wesley Crusher left. Tracy Coco was there. Of course, she was in the back. She's usually in the back with Ensign Gates in the front. The Ferengi guy, Lee Ehrenberg, has mastered the sinister smile. He had a beautiful, sinister smile, and I couldn't believe we didn't see him again after that. Also, the little purple, the little gold ship with the purple wings, of those guys, I could swear that I've seen that ship before, but painted differently. So that'll maybe be a question for the free for all or things left unsaid. But I recognize that ship. I'm like, they've used this ship before at some point. I don't know what it was. And a lot of other funny little, like, it was nice in the middle of the episode to hear Data's second officer's log. I feel like that's a first in the middle of the episode.
I agree with that.
It just kind of showed up out of nowhere, right?
It did. I wrote it down in my notes. Second officer's log from Data, like in the middle of the episode, or like towards the end almost.
Like we've had that before when we had like at the beginning second officer's log and then second officer, and then, but this was the first time it just kind of pops out of nowhere.
I loved it.
Interesting, yeah.
I loved it.
And the last thing that made me laugh, there are a few things that made me laugh, but when this guy's sister dies and they're all like on the bridge, they're all like, incredible, fascinating. I'm like, this guy's sister just died and you guys are like, wow, that's pretty interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, I was not happy with the guy's reaction either.
No, and I expected it. Yeah.
I just wasn't like his reaction, because they cut to another scene right after that, and he was like, "Okay, what I'm going to need is this," and I was like, "Bro,
exactly,
just died."
I thought the same thing. Play it differently, and that's when the director could step in and be like, "Just remember, your sister just died, so have that
right
underline in there,
undertone. It's got to be something like it. It looks like you've been crying." For a couple hours, and you're trying to hold it together, but you're delivering your lines. You can't be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna need a."
He was enthusiastic.
Yeah, dude, he was like, seriously. I was like, "What is this guy working like?" Like he was working the drive-through at his favorite spot. It was too much. It was too much energy for me, and I was thinking, this guy's not playing the right tone. And another time that he played the wrong tone, by the way, is. When the Federation Council came through with the ruling on that corridor and said, look, only essential vehicles will go through, and the maximum speed will be warp 5, which is going to cause damage. He's like, that's cool. I'm cool with that. Like the facial expression he made, while Picard made a face like like we didn't stop it from happening, like maybe warp 1 or something, but he's like, warp 5, that's going to still cause damage, right? He's like, Picard's like, oh, warp 5, like I didn't want that.
He played that note. Yep, he did.
He played the note. Meanwhile, the other guy whose sister just died, whose life is in danger, what the whole experiment is all about, he's like, warp 5, I'll take it. That's a good note.
All right, I'm gonna have a garage sale with all my sister's stuff now. That's what he's thinking. He's morbid.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, it's a different culture. Maybe they celebrate death like the Klingons do.
It's possible.
All right. It's time for the home run of today's episode. We've done enough damage here. Who do you think gets the home run of today's episode, Strzok? Might be a tough one.
Nah, this one was easy for me, actually, even though This didn't have much going on. Spot. No, I'm joking.
Oh, that was my answer.
No. Oh, sorry, my bad.
You're like,
My
I'm just kidding.
bad.
I would never say something so stupid. I'm like, oh.
My bad. I didn't mean to step on your spot. No, I wanted to say Geordie LaForge. Yeah, LeVar Burton was the best in my opinion, and there were moments why I thought that. For example, when Picard said, "Make sure you do and get that done right now," and he says, "Escort her to the brig or escort her to something," and the way he said, "Yes, sir," the way he said, "Yes, sir," I had to rewind it because I was like, "That's a great yes, sir." For tone wise of the moment and everything, he was in agreement with it. The other moment that I thought he stole the episode home run was when he says, "How did we miss this, Data?" Like I think my own like ego and pride got in the way because I didn't want it to be true, and I took it personally. And I'd like that was a level of accountability on him and his character that shows integrity. And I liked the way he tonally delivered that as an actor.
Absolutely. And I feel like LeVar Burton always matches the right tone of the scene. Like I cannot remember any scenes in 7 seasons where he didn't, match it, deliver his lines well. I mean, he's a perfect actor out there. He's the perfect guy to play your chief engineer, and I've always been very, very happy with him. However, in my mind, the home run of today's episode carried the episode, at least for the first 10 minutes, and that's Spot. Because, hey, Spot has gotten a little bit of love in the past, but he, at the time, would just get like one little flash of a scene or this or that. Spot was on camera more than all the other appearances combined. So I'm like, hey, Spot got more screen time than most of the leads. So, and he or she didn't mess it up. He hit his marks, or she. Although I did find myself checking because I was like, I wonder if it's still the same cat or if they actually did get a different cat. But anyway,
what was your favorite part of the performance? Was it the when he brought down the little string to play with, or when
that was very cute when he ran past Geordie?
Yes, that was the best for me.
I was like, whoa, he's moving on. He's blocking well. How'd they do that? That's not easy.
I was like, he did that on cue. I thought the same thing. I was like, that's pretty good.
Dogs are very trainable, but cats are smart, but people think they're dumb because they're not really trainable. No, the cat's like, no, I know what you want me to do. I just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I'm like, pretty good.
That runaround was that was a great take. That was good.
I was pleased. Anyway, here are some other people that have great takes, and their names are Dr. Anne-Marie Seagull, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackman, Tom TJ, Jackson Bay out in Missouri, Titus Moeller, Anil O. Palat, Joe Balsarati, Mike Gu, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, the Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Jake Barrett, Henry Unger, Allison Leach Hyde, Julie Manosfi, Jed Thompson, Dr. Susan V. Gruner, Glenn Iverson, Dave Gregory, Cassandra G., Mark Zutkoff, Chris Garris, Linda Pages, Steve Case, Stephen Monk, Jonathan Capps, and of course, Jason M. Oken. Stick around, everybody. We got the free-for-all up next. We will be right back on the 7th Rule. Well, hi there, everybody. Welcome back to the 7th Rule with Sirach Frickin' Lofton.
Hello.
That's fun text, Sirach. We got the free-for-all, sorry, with Melissa Longo.
Hi.
Jason M. Oken is here.
Hi, everybody.
Carrie Schwent loves kitties. Allison Leach Hyde does too, but dogs too, for sure. Mark Zutkoff has 3 choice images. Chris McGee loves the importance of the Cisco family. All right. Jake Sisko guesses the IMDb score.
$6-1.
Does anybody else have any guesses that doesn't already know?
I was going to go with 7-2.
6-3, just to be different. But again, not a personal choice.
Yeah, I'm going to guess 7-6, but I don't think it's not my choice. It's just a guess.
Jason, you actually got exactly what I guessed it was. That you don't get any prize for that. I guessed 6-3 as well, but it's a 6.4. We were very close, as was Sirach. All right.
That's what I get for being optimistic.
Non-appearance mentions. I didn't catch any. No? Okay. What about some kind of or some sort of, Chris McGee?
I heard a couple of them. First, Geordi identifying the source of the ship shaking says some kind of high energy distortion wave. Mm-hmm. And then later on, when he's doing some soul searching with Data, says the thought that warp engines might be doing some kind of damage.
Excellent. Wow. What a script. All right. Well, let's get started. Melissa Longo, please get us going on the right track by telling us what you think of this particular gem.
If it's the right track. I really wanted to like this episode, and I had high hopes with the intro with Geordi looking for Spot under his bed and him saying, "You better trade Spot. You gotta trade Spot." Like, how are you gonna train a cat if you never met cats before? And I actually really enjoyed the scenes between Data and Geordi. I love seeing that relationship growth and the day-to-day stuff that involves both of them. And then as well as Geordi's competition with somebody on the Intrepid. That's so funny. Because that's real life. We all kind of do that kind of stuff. And I get what they were trying to do with this episode as far as message goes, and I'm all for being pro-environment, but for me, this episode fell short. It was pretty boring. It was a bit of a snooze fest. Yeah, unfortunately. And I felt little to no connection for the two people that were talking about their planet being destroyed by warp drive. And I'm not sure what... Yeah, also, I'm not sure why they needed Ferengi in this episode. To me, TNG doesn't seem to write well for the Ferengi. They just don't understand them very well. It could have been a good premise and it had a promising message, but I just don't think they handled it very well, in my opinion.
Yeah, we did mention the Ferengi in this episode, that's for sure. Thank you very much. Melissa Longo. All right. Jason M. Oken, your thoughts? Top 5 episode.
Oh, absolutely. I was with Melissa on this one. You do want to like it very much, but it turns out to be sluggish, preachy, and frankly, I think it just gets mired in its own execution. I think the premise at the heart of it is the right thing. It's something that Star Trek does, but I think it's a bit heavy-handed and frankly so slow that the action or anything doesn't start until the third act. It gets bogged down on its own details, and there's a lot of filler here. I mean, no wonder. I mean, the episodes were short, and they had to put in the scenes to actually make it, to actually make its airtime. So again, a lot of what to like about this episode sort of is I think, in LeVar's performance. I think he's wonderful here. The show is full of technobabble. I mean, it's just overflowing with technobabble, and LeVar handles it wonderfully, as he always does. And it's just, if anything makes this episode stand up, it's his performance, it's Brent's performance, and sort of their interaction. Otherwise, it's a bottle show. There's a lot of dialogue here, and frankly, the direction doesn't do it any favors. It's very, very static. And for a bottle show, it can be a killer if there's no real excitement or no real drama going on. again, it's hard to know what the show wants to be. Is it talking about Geordi's growth as he's going from this competition to basically being defensive, and then realizing perhaps that he may have been wrong and technology can actually be damaging? Is it really some sort of a mystery they're trying to find the ship, or is it really a moral sermon? It sort of leans into the latter very, very heavy-handedly. I think the message is good, and I think it ends on a positive note when LaForge actually says, we can always make it better. But again, it's just the execution is poor. It is a little boring, and it doesn't stick its landing. And I know it's jumping ahead a little bit, but the message gets blunted by the fact that this gets lip service later on and gets completely ignored afterwards. It's an episode with no consequences on a very, very important topic.
Yeah.
And that to me is probably its biggest downfall.
Wow, great stuff, Jason M. Oken. Another thing that's discussed later on that was introduced in this episode or kind of glossed over is Spot being a female now. But in a further episode, we'll understand that works. Carrie Schwent loves kitties, and she can't wait to talk about this episode. What'd you think?
Yeah, I wanted to like it more. There was some decent potential. It definitely it could have gone further with the thought that occurred to me about that change not being easy, but that it's not supposed to be. It's not supposed to be easy, and it tries to do that. But yeah, I agree with Jason. It definitely doesn't stick as well as it could have. I do like that we get to see how Picard exercising his diplomatic skills again, how well he deals with the daemon, and then later with the siblings. I really liked how well he dealt with both of them, because you can honestly sympathize with Sarova. Her frustration is relatable. Even she does take it too far, but you can kind of understand where she's coming from. Yeah, I honestly did like the dynamic between the two siblings, because he's talking to Geordi about, I didn't quite believe her at first, but the more I looked into it, I started to come around to her way of thinking, and you can see the sibling dynamic when she's getting frustrated. He's trying ultimately in vain to calm her down. But I liked the two of those actors in particular. I didn't recognize them, unfortunately, from anything that stuck out. But the one that did, I kind of wish, they had skipped over the Ferengi bit, but it would have robbed us of a fantastic actor that played the daemon, Lee Ehrenberg. He, in particular, plays two of my absolute favorite characters. One from that awesome pair in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. He's the guy with the long hair hanging out with the dude with the prosthetic guy. He is absolutely hysterical in that, and that he also plays on the TV series Once Upon a Time. Grumpy one of the seven dwarfs, who in Storybrooke is named Leroy. He is absolutely fantastic in that show as well. If you've neither seen either one, go watch them both. Especially Once Upon a Time, they interweave all of the different fairy tales, I feel like, really, really well, in very interesting ways you probably might not expect. So I will move on from that. But yeah, I love that actor so much. He is hysterical. But the best part, if you couldn't tell from the hovering cats behind me, all of the scenes with Spot were wonderful. So relatable to anyone who has ever lived with or been around cats. The whole scene where Data's trying to work with Spot, up is no, down is good. Absolute gold. And the end of the scene is especially where Geordi notes that Data's trading is coming along very well. Jake and Nog here above me, the siblings, trying to train them occasionally is definitely been fruitful, especially once they discovered that occasionally things get left on either the kitchen counter or in the kitchen sink, and trying to keep them off of that has definitely been an exercise in futility. But they do have me trained in one aspect when it comes to their cat treats. If I'm anywhere near the pantry where they're kept, Jake always starts it. He comes up and he's meowing at me like, "Hey, Mom, come on." And I say no. And the way I realized I was saying no, he was taking to me, "Okay, I'll keep going, and you're going to give in. You're going to give in about 30 seconds." And then usually after a couple of meows, Nog wanders over and joins the chorus, and they inevitably get their treats. So my training is definitely coming along very well. And of course, the limerick for the episode definitely had to be cat related. Owning a cat can bring all kinds of joy, like when they cuddle or play with a toy. They are difficult to train. Trying might make you insane. We still love them even when we're annoyed.
Do love cats. Thank you very much. Carrie Schwent, aka Crafty Bear. Allison Leach Hyde is back. You don't have to convince her about cats. What do you think of this episode?
I think I'm going to sound like a broken record. I liked the bits with Data and Geordi, and of course Spot, star of my shirt today.
Oh yeah.
And did find the rest of the episode a little bit preachy. It's a good message. Yes, we want to protect our environment, and that, I think, that was a hurdle they did not fully clear in making this truly exciting to watch. So yeah, I thought LeVar did a lovely job acting in this, and my favorite scene is at the end with him and Rabal went after so Serova died, and he went and talked to him at 10 Forward. I thought that was a lovely scene, and he's like, "What can we do now?" And he said, "We." I'm like, he's learning from the whole previous episode and now wants to help. I thought that was a lovely scene to have. And yeah, so I don't think I'm going to sound anything, super new. I too have been trained by an orange cat that loved to walk across my console or my laptop. I had two. One of them could walk across it and make it talk. Every single time she walked across it, she could hit the hotkeys to make my computer talk to me whenever I clicked on anything. So that was very annoying. So I can understand Data's frustration with that, but orange cats are the best cats, I have to say. I guess that's where I'm going to end this.
I agree with you, and they also have very, very strong personalities. Orange cats do. But I did notice, I was like, oh wow, they're talking about cats walking on the keyboard kind of joke already in the early 90s. I was like, all right, I guess that works. But I was thinking more like a newspaper back then. But thank you very much, Allison Leach Hyde. Mark Zutkoff. Oh, you got a cute picture over your shoulder of Spot and Data. What do you think of this episode?
Regrettably, this episode is an example of bait and switch. It starts as a comedy. The teaser with Data and Geordi and the now female Spot misbehaving and needing training. Then the subplot of Geordi competing with the Intrepid's chief engineer, which seems slightly out of character for him. The Ferengi vessel subplot is played for laughs as Picard and Riker negotiate with the Ferengi captain. Geordi even sets up and then pays off an elaborate joke about his sister training her cat by carrying a piece of tuna in her blouse. And then blam, it all changes. It's obviously an environmental global warming / climate change analogy. Scientists identify a life-threatening problem, and the only course of action suggested is more research and more time. And in the end, a compromise to slow the spread of the problem. Is it effective? Partially. Does it truly land as a message? Not entirely. The situation with the Ferengi vessel reminds me of a similar situation in TNG Season 1's The Last Outpost, where the Enterprise and a Ferengi vessel thought the other was causing them to lose power. While Data can't train Spot, the cat has clearly trained Data to respond to her commands. I like how Commander Data is assigned to review the data. Despite loads of pseudo-scientific talk, and I'm reluctant to consign it to technobabble because it's all done with deadly earnestness, the crew acts with super competence to rescue the crew of the Fleming. As Jason said, at the end, Geordi says to Picard, we still have time to make it better, only if action is taken. The burn in Discovery's 32nd Century is perhaps a more successful way of illustrating the impact to the Federation and other civilizations of losing warp drive, but that storyline didn't have the environmental angle to it. And my home pun of the episode, It's a long ladder to fix environmental issues, and they won't get fixed until people decide to climb it. Get it? Climb it. Climb. Yeah. Never mind.
It's not a question of right or wrong. It's just, thank you very much, Mark Zutkoff. Always great stuff. Chris McGee's the Dark Lord. He's shaking his head at all of us. What'd you think of this episode?
It kind of feels like a bog standard Star Trek episode, which is not to say that it's bad or anything from my viewpoint. In fact, I rather like it. It has the hallmarks of a good episode: action with a ticking clock, a moral message to convey, some character introspection, etc. Yes, it's preachy, but that's kind of par for the course with shows back then. I think the A-plot was originally an analogy to CFCs destroying the ozone layer, which was a huge concern back in the late 80s and early 90s. Basically, our everyday technology is tearing a hole in the fabric of something. But like Mark, I feel that this episode is more of an analogy to climate change in general. If so, however, like other similar efforts of the era, it fell on deaf ears. And this main plot doesn't really even begin until almost halfway through the episode. It does, however, have a semi-lasting effect in that warp travel speeds are now limited. But who's going to post all those warp speed limit signs throughout the galaxy? Originally, I wasn't crazy about the B plot. I felt that it made for a rather innocuous teaser, the cold open for the episode, almost as if they just needed to fill some time while simultaneously convincing the audience that Spot is female. So I found the cat training plot woven throughout the episode to be rather unnecessary. Then after some research, I discovered that it's actually a thematic mirror. Data trying to train Spot, a literal force of nature, a cat, and completely failing is a comedic parallel to the A plot. The Federation learning it cannot simply bend nature to its will without consequences. Data can't control a cat. The Federation can't control the side effects of warp drives. So I thought that was a nice parallel that I hadn't noticed before. A couple other notable notes. I'm pretty sure that that's Lieutenant J at one of the aft stations during, I guess, all of the bridge scenes, really. One of my favorite moments is when Riker tries to recommend a course of action to escape the rift toward the end, and Data effectively tells him, "No, that'll just blow us up, sir." One nitpick I'll mention also, Geordi says that he can remember times when he tried to get people to believe him when he didn't have enough proof. Sound familiar? And Data replies that Geordi wouldn't resort to such extremes as Serova did. Yet, just a few episodes ago, we reviewed Interface, where Geordi did resort to extreme measures because his own crewmates wouldn't believe him without proof. Oh, and I think the new anomaly should be named Serova's Rift in her memory. To address Melissa's comments about the Ferengi, also something I found during my research, I discovered that the inclusion of the Ferengi subplot isn't incidental. To quote, having the Ferengi, the franchise's avatar of unchecked capitalism, involved in the same story about environmental damage from routine commerce is a deliberate pairing. Wow. Industry that won't slow down even when warned. And so for my memorable quote of the episode, it's kind of a cliche, but it's Geordi saying, "I don't know about Spot, but it seems to me your training's coming along just fine."
Thank you very much. Chris McGee, a.k.a. the Dark Lord. All right. Jake's final take in a cool purple shirt. What do you think of this? Final thoughts? What do you think? Unmute.
That's funny. Yeah, first of all, I was thinking, Chris, I think Riker might have already claimed Serova's Rift. But that's a whole nother thing. Where was I here? Oh, the first thing I was going to say was, I'm kind of like wishing they would do different versions on aliens. I feel like forehead prosthesis is the ultimate first go-to. I would like to see a non-forehead prosthesis and maybe a jawline prosthesis, or something different. It can't, because there's just too many different aliens with exactly just variations of different foreheads, and I would like them to kind of accentuate other parts of the body features for me. I know that's a crazy observation, but I was like, what race of aliens are these guys now? They're a different forehead group of, and so that's all. Just give me something a little bit different. Cheeks, chins, other parts of the body you can accentuate. I love the way Data, when answering the question about training Spot, when he says, I have not been entirely successful. And he says it so optimistically, like he's trying to convince himself that it's working. And I really like that delivery. One thing's for sure, don't leave your cat with LaForge, because we know Geordi is not good with pussy cats. Let's see. Oh, I did have also one other thing, and that is, I do think that they kind of backdoored into a interesting subject that I would say is relevant to today's headlines, and I know it wasn't something that they set out to do, and that was talking about establishing a corridor for safe passage. And what's in the headlines right now is a corridor of safe passage when we talk about the Middle East and the Strait of Hormuz, a very small space in which ships pass through. And interestingly enough, these people were mining that space in order to get attention. So I thought inadvertently, they actually truthfully articulated something that's in the headlines today. And I know the ultimate storyline was to be talking about climate change and the effects of depleting the environment, but it's also about radical moves to get attention, and to impose your will. And so I think that was also something that was discussed inadvertently, but it certainly rings true when you look at headlines today.
All right. Man, Chris McGee jumped on something you said. I'll tell you that. All right. That's it for us, everybody. We've got Things Left Unsaid up next. If you are a patron, check that out. It's going to get zany. For everybody else, let's say thank you very much to Chris McGee, Mark Zetkoff, Allison Leach-Hyde, Carrie Schwent, Jason M. Oken, Melissa Longo, for myself, Sirach, Melissa, and Mr. Aaron Eisenberg. Thank you all very much for hanging out with us. We will see you next time. And until then, always remember the seventh rule.